Today, I'm proud to announce a new $2.4 billion package of security assistance.
And by the way, it breaks down to about $9,000 per illegal immigrant in this country. We don't even spend that for the most vulnerable American citizen.
And the federal relief and assistance that we have been providing has included FEMA providing $750 for folks who need immediate needs being met.
Hey there, friends. Welcome back to As a Man Thinketh on UNASA TV. It is difficult at the moment to focus on a lot of the other things going on across our country when our neighbors and friends here in North Carolina have been facing such horrendous struggles. You know, most of the people at this point in time that we know that we've reached out to seem to be doing okay and seem to be getting by with what they have. But a lot of the people we know are farmers and folks who have just a lot of resources on site to help themselves when these type of situations arise. But, you know, I was reading a story the other day just to give you an idea of what it was like for some of these folks leading up to the hours of this storm. There was a husband and wife in their late 60s, early 70s. One of them had left, the wife had left the house to go to work as normal as Helene started coming into town, and that probably saved her life. As the storm rolled in, you know, her and her husband were communicating, and at first he was like, oh, things are fine here. And then as time progressed, he started seeing that their fields were flooding. Eventually the water reached to the basement of their home. Their home sits 1,700 feet above sea level. And then as the messages went on, he started saying it's in the basement of the house. It's going to make its way up to the second story. We're in trouble. And today, nearly a week after the hurricane, nobody has heard or seen from him. He was at home with their dog. They found his dog about 3 miles from their house. They found his Jeep, which was underwater, you know, well before he had lost communication with his family. His Jeep was about a mile away from the house. And so this is what people in North Carolina are going through. These are the stories that you're hearing from those who remain missing. And at this point, there's already over 200 deaths. So this was catastrophic. And you've probably seen the pictures of entire towns, Chimney Rock, just, you know, being wiped off the maps as if they never existed, just 5 feet of rubble as far as the eye could see. I mean, it is absolutely horrible. So I find it quite concerning that we had predicted this hurricane season to be more active than other hurricane seasons. I think a lot of us knew that as La Nina set in, it would change tropical development, probably increase the storm counts. But FEMA just announced the other day that they were going broke and wouldn't make it through the hurricane season. And just so you guys know, if you live in Southwest Florida, I've been watching a development, and I think you should keep your eyes on it. Mid next week, around the 7th and 8th, a tropical storm could be forming in the Gulf of Mexico. If you look at the European models, which have, in my opinion, tracked these tropical storms a little better than some of the other GFS models. But if you look at the European models, they're actually, the last couple days, they've actually been showing a strengthening of something that could potentially become a tropical storm or a hurricane. We saw how fast Helene developed as it came into the panhandle. So please pay attention. And right now it looks like that impact would be the southwest coast of Florida. And obviously after these storms form, they change a lot of conditions, and that storm could easily go across the southwest of Florida, head out into the Atlantic and do an S-curve back up. It has happened before. So keep an eye if you're on the East Coast of that development. I don't think that you're really going to see much of anything until, you know, Monday or Tuesday next week of it taking shape and forming. But what I would like to know is, where is all of our money going? We are the taxpayers. This is our country. These are our people. And while I preach all the time that we all need to be prepared ourselves to take care of ourselves in emergencies, what I'd like to know is where all of the money is going. Where is it going? If we don't have enough funds in FEMA to help assist with, even just the infrastructure that needs to be repaired from these storms that do happen, You know, they've been happening for a very long time. There was a time in the 1400s when the Spanish considered the Gulf Coast of Florida to be completely unsettleable because they kept getting hit back to back with hurricanes, kind of like what we have seen over the last several weeks, you know, back to back hurricanes forming in the Gulf of Mexico. And that's, you know, what irritates me even more is this clip that I'm going to show you. As Hurricane Helene approaches, where our money was going.
I see two key pieces. First, right now we have to strengthen Ukraine's position on the battlefield. And that's why today I'm proud to announce a new $2.4 billion package of security assistance. I've also directed the Pentagon to allocate all the remaining security assistance funding that has been appropriated to Ukraine, period, by the end of my term, which is January 20.
Now, I'm not saying that, you know, these other efforts around the world aren't admirable, but I just want to give you guys some numbers and some perspective real quick. 24.4 billion has gone to Ukraine, 11.3 billion has gone to Israel, 1.9 billion has gone to Ethiopia, 1.6 billion has gone to Jordan, 1.4 billion to Egypt, 1.1 billion to Afghanistan, 1.1 billion to Somalia. Of course, Somalia is facing some horrendous food shortages. 1 billion to Yemen. Now, why would we be sending any money to Yemen at this point in time? I have no idea. The Yemen rebels have not been very kind to our shipping. 987 million to the Congo, 896 million to Syria, and we've spent approximately $9,000 per illegal immigrant coming across the border.
As a recent House Homeland Security Committee report says, the amount could reach, get this, up to $451 billion a year. I mean, $500 billion a year. Can we afford this?
Well, we're borrowing 100,000 a second, $8 billion a day. We're borrowing $2 trillion a year just to fund this federal government that continues to grow and encroach on the lives of the American people. So, no, we can't afford it. We are off the rails. The national debt is unsustainable. This administration's added $7 trillion to the national debt, and we're spending hundreds of billions of dollars for this border crisis. Look, the social cost of public safety, security, the humanitarian cost is unprecedented. And by the way, it breaks down to about $9,000 per illegal immigrant in this country. We don't even spend that for the most vulnerable American citizen.
In the year of 2024, we have allocated nearly $650 million. It was like 640 million something to non-government organizations to assist with covering their costs of basically helping migrants as they come into the United States. Again, I'm not saying that I don't sympathize with refugees or, you know, all of the things that are going on in the world. But if we don't start taking care of our own people, if we don't start using the tax dollars that are being paid by the U.S. corporations, by the U.S. employees, and putting that towards their well-being, we're going to have utter chaos in the United States. Now, luckily, even though FEMA's going broke and we've spent billions of dollars in other countries, we're giving $750 apiece to those impacted by Helene.
And the federal relief and assistance that we have been providing has included FEMA providing $750 for folks who need immediate needs being met, such as food, baby formula, and the like. And you can apply now for anyone who is watching this who has been affected.
When you listen to her voice, you know that $750 is not going to do much for those families. It reminds me of all of the stimulus checks that they were sending out during COVID. It wasn't enough to really change much in our lives. I mean, $750 today is a trip to the grocery store. Well, maybe a couple trips to the grocery store. I don't know. I mean, the food prices were coming down for a little bit for the last 3 months. Global food prices have been jumping back up again. It looks like, you know, that trend has bottomed out if you look at the other bottoms. And that is going to cause food insecurity situations and more social disturbances around the world anytime food prices go up. That generally happens around the world. And here in the United States, we have been feeling the impacts of higher food prices. So, I mean, it's a mess. Think of it this way. If you were somebody from another country, you have a better chance of benefiting from the US tax dollars that are being paid into the system to take care of the people in our country than you do if you are a US citizen. Like, we don't have our act together. We don't have our priorities straight. And to me, it's no secret that we should have been planning for some of these storms. We have to plan for these storms almost every single year. Since I could remember, since I was a kid, we've been being impacted by Category 5, Category 4 hurricanes. So I think this is really disappointing. I think that our priorities, when I say the current administration's priorities have not been focused on the American people. They're not here for us. And it's pretty clear, you know, with the delayed reaction to Helene and then the lack of resources that they're making available for those families that underwent horrendous conditions is saddening. Absolutely saddening. Anyway, guys, that's just something I had to get off my chest. Looking at those numbers and thinking about, you know, where all this money is going, that's technically our money. It's bothersome. And like I said, it's not that I don't sympathize with those other causes or those other things that are going on around the world. I just simply think that we need to put our own people first, because if we don't do that, we're not going to keep it together. And then we're worthless to everybody else around the world.